Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to round number 7 of our Grid Championship Series, brought to you by RaceFace and Mettlestate. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the combox once again is the one, the only, Janneman Price. Janneman, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Stephen. Doing well, and you? We are at Mount Panorama, Bathurst, the mountain. Now, this is going to be an interesting thing, folks. Have a look at that time. It's already 7 o'clock in the evening, so things are about to get dark on the mountain.
And that's it. As we saw, when things get a little bit darker, the drivers have to plan a little bit harder and have to try and maneuver their way across. A lot of drivers getting a bit of track time last night, hoping to get a little bit more eyes in the, eyes for the darker conditions. But also, being the second last round means that the championship is also playful for a lot of these drivers, going for that massive prize pool of 10,000 Rand. And I can't stress that enough. It's the best way to start off Christmas, as we watch our drivers make their way up and down through the hill, starting off with our qualifying. But I've got to ask you, Janneman, thoughts going into the second last round of the race, of the season? It is now put up or shut up. How's this all going to work? Who's going to climb to the top? It's anyone's game.
Well, it is kind of an interesting thing, because as we look at the championship, we are currently tied for first place. Morgan McCall, Cody Sherritt, both on 238 points. Now, Steve, as far as I know, Cody's not racing tonight. He is serving a penalty, so that's going to mix up the championship a bit. Third place, you got Ryan Ottens at 200 points, and then followed by Bernard Barkhuizen in fourth place by 184. Daniel Rowe in fifth place by 178. So, what I want to say is this championship is by no means done yet.
That is definitely the case, and we're having a chat to a couple of the drivers of whether they're going to go and change tires. Is it going to be a strategy to do, considering they have 2 mandatory pit stops? How well is that going to work, considering the nature of the circuit? We saw some guys opting in the last race at Messina not to go and change tires. That seemed to work in their favor. Now with a little bit more of a rough circuit, is this going to be the same case? I don't know. It's going to be a difficult one, but I see Cody Sherritt is out. He's currently in 6th place. He's going to be making up through the hill and definitely to make an impact for the team to go for that championship. Morgan McCall at the moment is the fastest and the man to beat, the ATK driver, doing a 201.09. Right behind him, teammate Christian Deploy doing a 201.1 in the big Mercedes as they rocket their way through. Christopher Radloff up on his time in the Honda NSX, hoping to make a good run with the Hybrid Academy team, getting chased down by his teammate Jason McGregor. Ethan Lacuna up into 5th place at the moment, been making some big waves here in Raceface. Tristan de Norbrigge in 6th place. 7th place is Cody Sherritt, hoping to go and stretch his points for the championship. Ryan Ottens in 8th. 9th at the moment, Daniel Rowe, with 10th place Eric Kirstein. But jumping first into our comments is Alan Patterson, keeping an eye on the likes of Cody Sherritt while they make their way through. We are coming to you live on both Twitch under Mettlestate, so make sure you hit that follow, and also the bell notification icon for all the chaos that ensues at Mettlestate. You don't want to miss any of the esports action that occurs there. And also make sure you hit the subscribe with the bell notification icon if you're here on YouTube under RaceFace.Pro. So, looking at it at the moment, Christopher Radloff taking the top mark, instantly gets beaten out by Cody Sherritt doing a 2:03. Some incredible times getting put out by these drivers, all getting to 2 minutes, maybe looking at a sub 2 minute. Do you think that's possible?
I don't think I've ever seen a sub 2 minute at Bathurst. Now, come to think of it, I mean, Cody being out there 2 minutes 0.4, he's not that far off to go sub 2 minute today.
And you can see Bernard Barkhuizen was having a bit of difficulty getting around one of the McLarens. He's deciding just to go and put it back in the pits. Jump on with Christopher Radloff as he makes his way up. Morgan McCall, but you can see just with all the different angles of the circuit how there's lots of undulations to the circuit. It's not straight, it's very bumpy. You've got to set your ride height just right, you got to set your suspension right, you've got to work on your rake. How is that going to affect you over the long course of it? And also, as it being 18 degrees at the moment, expecting it to cool down to about 15 degrees on track means that everything is going to get a lot cooler. Braking is going to start moving, where you actually hit your brake markers. When those tires start running out, where's that all going to come into play? There's lots of questions of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I was in the practice server a couple of days ago, and when it started getting that cold, started moving down to 15 degrees, Stephen, I actually struggled to just get temperatures in those tires to actually get them to warm up. I started closing the brake ducts more and more, and eventually couldn't close them anymore, but still struggled to keep those temps up.
That's it. Taking a look. Christian Deploy so far on a good lap. He is 0.5 on his last lap, hoping to throw him ahead of his teammate Morgan McCall. Will it be enough to move him into that top 3, top 4? He's trying his luck, makes his way around, and just backing out last minute, feeling that he couldn't quite get it there, but he managed to put himself in 3rd at the moment. It just had a little bit in the tank to go that little bit further. Ryan Ottens also coming to a stop, Tristan de Norbrigge as well, with 6 minutes and 35. So guys just coming across the line, having just enough fuel to get them to the end and see how it all goes.
Oh, you were speaking about strategies earlier on, and there is this rumor going around that some of the guys are going to try and do it without stopping for tires and just do fueling stops, but they also said they're keeping their options open. It all depends on what is happening in the race, but according to their long run data, it shows that it might be possible to do it without changing tires. Steve, hour and 20 minutes, on one set of tires. That's a long time to be on that set.
It's a lot of nursing for these tires, and depending on the nature of how your vehicle's set up, how much aero you got on it, you know, it's a lot of time to nurse those tires. It is possible, but by the end of the race you're looking at about 0.1, 0.2 of a second off your times, and you're running on that fine razor's edge to try and get a little bit more of a jump. So I don't know whether it'll be worth it. Maybe putting on tires a little bit later on in the race might be the better option in it. Go for that second stop, dump tires on and go, just so you have a fresh set to go and throw your way down the hill. Taking a look at Cody Sherritt at the moment, he is so far the quickest on the circuit, 0.1 up on all sectors, getting chased down by the Hybrid Academy driver, and I think that is Bago Krubler that is chasing him. No, it's not Bago Krubler. That might be the likes of Ryan Ottens. But so far 0.1 up. Christopher Radloff is 0.2 up on his previous time. So let's see whether this is going to be able to push Cody Sherritt into a sub 2 minutes that we have been waiting to see. As also, guys, thank you very much for joining us. To see Nick's jumping in as well on YouTube, and take a look at that. Cody Sherritt, 2 minutes 0.2 as his quick lap time. So close to that sub 2 minute mark. It's right there. They can taste it. It'll be the cherry on the cake if you can actually get it. Christian Deploy trying to get a little bit more of a run up the hill, but if we go down through the field, Dean Cavassa has been doing very well of late. Been getting into some good racing. Connor Alexander also one to keep an eye out for, new to it, really stamping his mark, and slowly been improving, which is nice to see the guys coming through. Peter Oosthuizen as well has had a great run this season, trying to get a little bit quicker and trying to get a little bit more underneath his belt in the Pro Series. Followed by Ruben van der Westhuizen in the Porsche, going and making his way around. He's been really having some up and down moments, some great racing, but then had some catastrophic failures happening. Grant Sebastian, been very consistent in the top 15 constantly, as he has to catch up to his main rival, which we've seen, Sujin Pillay, who just clipping the wall with the Ferrari, has been going and playing a little bit of yo-yo with him. Eric Costain a little bit further up. Nicholas Manuel, who has also been one to keep an eye out for around the circuit. So many of our back market drivers, Bernard Barkhuizen, Andre Serradio, and the list goes on, that have been making some headway in the Pro Series and really been showing what they can do. But the main focus seems to be on the likes of the championship, which is Cody Sherritt, which is Kieran Patterson, who unfortunately is not here tonight, Daniel Rowe. I mean, this can change it up. Round number 7 means we got one more race next week, and that's it. It's decided. It's done. It's over. And I know that's got everyone, including myself, sitting at the edge of their seat, waiting to see who's going to be able to climb out on top when it is all said and done, when the checkered flag waves.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it. It's now the business end of the season. Earlier on in the season, we spoke about, sussing out the competition, finding out who the guys are you're racing against, 4 positions in the championship. That's been done. You know now who your main competition is, and you know now who you need to beat. And I think this is a competition that might even go down to the wire, and it's by no means decided yet. We can actually say it will be decided next week on the last race. So at this stage, there's still a couple of guys that can be champions. But Bathurst also being one of those, call it a great leveler. I mean, anything can happen tonight.
What levels you into a wall, so...
That's what I'm going to say, as they go through the mountain section, the walls on the side, we used to call them guide rails, because as we see there with Grant Sebastian, they tend to guide you along in the right direction.
I'll take a look. Christopher Adloff, 0.3 up on his time. As he comes up the hill, they're just not having the same drive, losing out and losing a bit of pace. Cody Sherritt trying to get a little bit more pace underneath him. He's currently leading in qualifying. He gets some sectors right, but just seems to not have the tail end working with him, losing out a bit of pace. He's getting chased down by Morgan McCall in the front engine big Mercedes, as you can see, winding his way through, trying to get a little bit more pace. He's 0.1 up on his time. Daniel Rowe in third place. Christian Deploy, he's with the likes of Christian Deploy, the 8K teammate to Morgan McCall, hoping to get a bit of run. But take a look, Morgan McCall now is 0.1, was faster in that last sector. Cody Sherritt coming across the line, 2 minute 0.1. If he keeps pushing this hard, I think we're going to see that sub. But looking at the time though, he's gone into the pits. Yeah, I wanted to see that sub 2 minutes, but I guess it won't be this evening.
Now, last question of qualifying, Stephen, for the race. Would you like rear engine or would you like a front engine vehicle on this track?
Well, coming with my particular favorites, if I have to talk about cars, I enjoy things like a Radical. It's a sports car, it's a mid-engine vehicle, it's very maneuverable. And that's when I take a look at such things as the Audi is a very good choice. Because everything's a little bit closer, the Honda NSX is a good choice because of how much rotation the cars have. But when it comes down to the big straights, I don't know. I think I'd have to go with a mid-engine vehicle. I'd have to look at the Audi, and the Audi was most of my success at Bathurst. Cody Sherritt, though, putting it in first place, proving me wrong, putting in first with the McLaren, having a bit of fun out there. Morgan McCall in second place, Daniel Rowe in third place. Christian Deploy trying his almighty best at this point, 0.3 up on his last lap time, and now going 0.4, actually fastest in sector, trying to hang on for dear life through the Forest Elbow, down the Conrad Straight. Has got the slight kink, and this is where you can't keep you have to keep your foot buried. Don't lift, otherwise you're in for a world of hurt and slowing the car up too early as he chases down one of the Aston Martins, hoping to just save in the toe. 0.2 up though, that might actually be enough to bump him into third position if he can carry this. He was literally 0.5, 2 minutes 0.5 on his last lap. So if he can get this, he will hold third place and join his teammates a little bit further up. 0.3 up in the last sector, giving it everything he's got. Christian Deploy dumping it in second place ahead of his teammate Morgan McCall. Daniel Rowe in fourth place. Christopher Radloff in fifth. Sixth place is Bago Krobler, followed by Jason McGregor, Ryan Ottens, Tristan de Norbrigge, and Grant Sebastian. While we wait for all that action, we're going to go and have a word from our sponsors. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Round number 7 of the Grid Championship, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. Janneman, a bit of a stacked field at the moment for our top 10. Cody Sherritt, Christian Deploy, Morgan McCall, Daniel Rowe, Christopher Radloff, Bago Krobler, Jason McGregor, Ryan Ottens, Tristan de Norbrigge, Grant Sebastian coming up in 10th place. You can see them still up on those air jacks, trying to keep the heat in those tires before they drop him down in the last remaining seconds and get going. Ethan Lacuna up to 11th place, which is nice to go and see the youngster really putting in the extra work there. Nicholas Manuel in 12th, Sujin Pillay in 13th, Andre Serradio in 14th, 15th, Bernard Barkhuizen, followed by Eric Kirstein, Ruben van der Westhuizen, Peter Oosthuizen, Connor Alexander, Dean Kabasa, and Tyan Kube. I do apologize, ran out of breath there, just going through all the names.
Yeah, no, they waiting for as long as we see Grant Sebastian going back to the pits.
Now Grant Sebastian going and
I don't think he hit drive quick enough.
I don't think so, and that takes him out of 10th place, puts him on cold tyres for the start of the race. Was that a good move? Was that the move that he wanted to do? I don't know. Guess we're about to find out, because we're going to go green, ladies and gentlemen. 70 kilometers an hour, hold it all together. Lights on, lights off, and away we go. And 2 drive-throughs have come from that. Nkube and Barkhuizen jump starting on the line, landing out with an issue. Take a look at
somebody ran wide at the back.
Oh, Sujin Pillay getting also a little bit out of shape. So that's Ethan Lacuna in the Audi that is trying to get himself going. So Ethan Lacuna going and losing out a bit of drive. But Cody Sherritt pushing Christian Deploy about a bit deep into the corner. Now trying to go defensive. Christian Deploy trying to come around the outside of him. Daniel Rowe trying to go on the inside to make a move. Morgan McCall has to deal with Christopher Radloff as they fight their way up the hill. And it is turning into an insatiable battle. But 2 drive-throughs from the start, that's got to hurt, because that's essentially 3 pit stops in your race. And Bernard Barkhuizen, who got the jump into 9th, now has to try and pull his way back up through the field, get enough spacing, and go for the pass.
I mean, absolutely, getting a drive through so early in the race, that's going to put you right back.
Oh, Christian Deploy going and catching the wall. Sorry to jump in there, but that was a hard smack for him, and I think he's received a bit of damage. But Christopher Radloff also going on to the dirt. Carry on, sorry about that.
No, the only thing I wanted to say is, it's such early in the race, that's going to put you smack bang last. And, at the back end of the field and having to fight your way back. Doesn't matter where you are on the grid. Getting a drive through so early in the race, you're going to find yourself right at the back. But we'll have to wait and see if Christian Deploy, sustained any serious damage after his little altercation with the wall there.
Yeah, and taking a look, Bernard Barkhuizen pulling a bit of a gap to Ruben van der Westhuizen, who's got Andre Serradio in the tow, and he's pulling Connor Alexander and Ryan Ottens. As you can see them still running nose to tail back up at the front. Daniel Rowe is dealing with Morgan McCall, Christopher Radloff, who are chasing him down, and Morgan is all over the back of him, trying to get a little bit closer to his teammate. Daniel going for that middle line, just making people guess where to go. It's a real, I could call it a go-kart move, because you learn about it in go-karting. Give the guy no option to go for a pass. Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? Try and figure him out. Unfortunately, it does put you on the wrong line, but it can just unsettle your competition just enough to make you get a little bit more run. Jason McGregor dealing with his teammate Bego Krobler, who is in tow, and they trying to pull away from Bernard Barkhuizen, Tristan de Norbrigge and Ruben van der Westhuizen, actually having a slight tap with one another that we got a little bit of a pickup on. And take a look as they come over the undulations, now going side by side into turn 2, sorry, so they make their way through. It is tight, and Van der Westhuizen actually clipping the wall. Remember, Bernard has still got that drive through. He has to serve it within 3 laps. Oh, it does look like Connor actually going into the wall and landing up, giving Ryan Ottens a position. So in this case, Bernard Barkhuizen's the only one with a drive through that still needs to do it. He's essentially on his 2nd lap. He is lying 7th at the moment. Do you think he needs to pull in now, or go just 1 lap deeper to try and get that run?
Personally, I don't think there's any use of going 1 lap deep. Get in, get it out of the way, and get out. In the beginning parts of the race, it's actually better to have that clear air to run in. You can actually run quicker if you're on clear air than in a pack like this that's all bunched up. So I would get in, get it out of the way, and see what I can make up from there.
Eric Costain actually hitting the dirt there. Sorry to jump in. Just saw Eric Costain getting a little bit loose out of the Forest elbow, and catching it all kinds of sideways.
Your Bentley corner.
The Bentley corner. It's got magnets attached to it. Tristan de Norbrigge battling against Ryan Ottens. Ryan Ottens trying to go on the inside, makes it stick. Tristan de Norbrigge losing time. Oh, there's Connor
Alexander.
Yeah, he's out of it, and it does look like Tristan de Norbrigge coming into the pits for his pit stop, looking to get it out the way early on. Bernard Barkhuizen also in the pits, so taking your advice here. Have you got comms to the drivers, Janneman, that you're not telling us about, yeah?
No, I'm just making up as I go along.
Well, that was Ferrari's excuse for Formula One. So
Yeah, I'm actually one of the lead. How can I put it? Strategists. I'm always on the phone with him.
okay, all right, fair enough. Just wanted to make sure that Finotto's got a good replacement coming through. Cody Sherritt and Christian Deploy running so close to one another, but doesn't look like Christian Deploy is going on the attack as yet. He's just keeping a good pace. Daniel Rose dealing with Morgan McCall, who seems to be in a little bit more of an aggressive attack at the moment. Morgan losing a bit of pace. Do you think at the moment it's better to settle down, get that groove going, and start trying to find your way through things a little bit more?
Yeah, after a couple of laps, it's good to start settling down. As you said, getting that groove. But I would like to think Morgan is itching to get past Daniel and start chasing after Christian to try and work together to get past Cody Sherritt for the lead, possibly.
Yeah, that little bit of a teammate rivalry coming into play, and just seeing your teammates a bit ahead does make things a little bit of a wonder. Taking a look though, Dean Kabasa making his way through. Ooh, that's Sujin Pillay. Take a look at Sujin Pillay in the Ferrari. It looks like that Ferrari has had better days. It's pulled a Leclerc somewhere, and ouch. As he enters the Forest Elbow, holding that inside line, he's going to try to limp it back to the pits, but something's gone on. Let's see if we can jump back just a fraction. Oh, and just looks like he couldn't brake just enough, rubbing against the wall. And I think it started right at the top of the hill. That landed up with a bit of an issue for our unfortunate AA Ferrari of Sujin Pillay.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sujin had an incident in last night's sprint race as well, and last night it looked like he was struggling a bit with the Ferrari, and it seems like he's had some more of the same tonight, having to limp that car back to the pits, going on the grass. I don't think there's a lot of steering left in that Ferrari, so you'll have to take it very easy coming into the pits and staying well out of the way of the other drivers. So well done, Sujin Pillay.
I'll take a look. Eric Kirstein also coming into the pits. So a couple of guys have headed into the pits early on. Bernard Barkhuizen did his drive-through. Kube did his drive-through. Eric Kirstein's actually in the pits. Sujin Pillay's in the pits. Ron Sebastian was in the pits. So he's got his mandatory pit stop, one of his mandatory pit stops done. Tristan de Norbriga, Connor Alexander, Ethan Lacuna. Now, do you think the strategy is getting the pit stops done a little bit early and then going back onto the attack to hope that maybe you have that bit of clear air? You think that's sort of the strategy that's coming through? Because it's a bit early that we've seen Tristan actually pit, but he was in a bit of a train of cars having to deal with it. Well, now he's got a little bit more free air.
I had a quick look at Tristan when he was in the pits, and it did look like he had a fair bit of damage also on the BMW. So I think that might not have been strategy as much as damage repair.
I'll take a look at Christian Deploy trying to pressure Cody Sherritt into an issue. Daniel Rowe having the same from the 80k driver of Morgan McCall as they fight their way through. Bernard Barkhuizen having to deal with Christopher Radloff, who is in his tow. Conrad Straight, this is a straight that I think not many people get to talk about, and how it's made or break races because of depending on how much aero you got on the vehicle, where you're about to lift, and if you're brave enough you go side by side through the kink, but it can land up in a world of hurt. We've seen it numerous times. It's one of these straights around the circuit. There's between the start finish line and Conrad Straight that heavily favors if you're not running any aero versus the rest of the circuit where you have to run max wing to try and keep the car stable as possible.
No, absolutely. I mean, Bathurst is one of those double-edged sword kind of tracks, if you want to call it that. You can either pick a setup that is relatively stable and will help you through the mountain section where you need it most, but you will lose out on those long straights, Conrad Straight being the longest straight of the three. Or you can go low downforce. You're going to sit with a very unstable car on the mountain, but you'll have that top end speed to defend down the straights. So personally I go for the more stable option because just I want that stable car on the mountain section. I mean, this section through here is you're hanging on for dear life, and now through this braking section, as we see a BMW going slowly there in the front, they had to climb on the anchors there to avoid it.
I think that was Bernard Barkhuizen that actually landed up with that problem. And it might have been Bernard that landed up with the issue. But as you pointed out, the guy's having a bit of a problem. Actually, I think that's Grand Sebastian that's ahead of them with damage on the nose. Yes, that's Grand Sebastian, who is moving out the way but not getting his foot out of it and forcing the drivers to make their way around. Yeah, oh man, he's having a bit of a tumultuous time there. Van der Veste is not having any luck. He's got the likes of Radio and Nicholas Manuel chasing him down. Oh, there's the Porsche getting a tank slap. It lands into the dirt. That's allowed Radio and Manuel to come by and start getting back on the throttle and charging forward.
Yeah, a small mistake like that. I mean, just getting onto the brakes a little bit too late, rear end steps out, and the Porsche's got some of those, or one of those cars where if that rear end steps out, you're almost just waiting for that snap to happen.
Yeah, it's unfortunately the characteristic, but it makes it really good on the mountains. Taking a look at the lap times though, this man over here, Morgan McCall, currently the fastest on circuit, doing a 201.5. 02, which is not much quicker than Cody Sherritt, who did a best lap time of 201.510, but has stepped up the pace over the likes of Daniel Rowe. He is 0.1 quicker than Daniel Rowe on that last lap time, and hoping to get by, really trying to force him into a difficult situation, but it just doesn't look like he has the same cornering as the Audi. As we jump to Andres Serradio and Nicholas Manuel, also same situation, mid-engine versus front engine. It just looks like the mid-engine's able to pull a little bit more ahead through the corners.
Yeah, and maybe on the straights, depending on the aero package. Oh, and we see Serradio lose the rear end.
No, that is Nicholas Manuel. Nicholas Manuel, who touched the curb, smashed the car. He's thankfully parked it in a reasonably safe area now, but to try and turn the car around, oh, that car is looking a bit busted up. Has to tow it back to pits. Not going to engage in it, but that's unfortunately taken a chunk out of his race, and it's so easy to do because that section is all about keeping your foot flat to carry the momentum through, and it just takes you to take one wheel over the curb, touch the grass, spins you out, and as we saw, the amount of damage that can occur from it is horrendous. But to try and turn your car around afterward is even worse.
Yeah, I actually know of leagues that's got a rule where if you have an accident in the mountain, you are by the rules forced to exit back to the pits to not block the track or even try and turn the car around. So what I want to try and say is that it's an extremely difficult place because of all those walls around you to turn the car around. I mean, just look at this section going through here. There's literally no runoff area.
Yeah, you've got to just follow the train. But taking a look, Cody Sherritt's only 0.9 seconds away from Christian Deploy. Daniel Rowe is about a second, and Morgan McCall. So I think this battle is going to start heating up, where we see that four trains starting to get back up on one another, and the fight's going to return. Do you think this is in the favor of the likes of Daniel Rowe getting stuck between two teammates? Is it going to favor this man over here, Cody Sherritt, who's got a clean circuit in front of him? But he is going to start making up some time, and it looks like he's actually starting to catch up to a couple of back markers, namely being these guys over here, coming through the Forest Elbow, Eric Costain, Sujin Pillay, Grand Sebastian. So that's it.
Well, to answer your question, I think the winner out of that might actually be Cody Sherritt, because I've got a feeling that, or you need to have that feeling that Morgan McCall and Christian Deploy is going to work together to get past Daniel Rowe collectively and get their sights on Cody Sherritt. But by that time, Cody might have opened up a little bit of a gap already. But Morgan absolutely glued to that rear wing of Daniel Rowe.
Daniel Rowe once again going to the middle of the circuit, just trying his best to go and stop the likes of Morgan McCall, who is hunting him down. Grant Sebastian has completed all his mandatory pit stops. We have lost we've lost a driver, unfortunately. But Grant Sebastian completes all these pit stops, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take him to the end. But having multiple damages early on in the race is what's pretty much put a dampener on that, and he's fighting it out a little bit further down. So that's why we're seeing that green marker on our screen. That is completed all the pit stops. Take a look. Morgan up on the inside of Daniel Rowe. Gives him no choice. Daniel Rowe has to deal with it. And now the two ATK drivers going to start following in tow. But this allows Daniel Rowe to utilize the tow that Morgan has been pulling him the whole way along. So how's it all going to work out? Well, we're about to find out as the race continues. And we're only 1 hour and 4 minutes left of the race. I mean, the race has barely started. We haven't even had 20 minutes yet. And the action has been fast. It's been crazy. It has been absolutely tremendous, with a few drivers making their way off circuit. Now as the conditions start to get cooler, 16 degrees, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to see how guys battle their way around the circuit.
No, absolutely. And look, if I was Daniel Rowe, and I know I'm not, Daniel is not that kind of driver. He's the kind of driver that, you know, takes the fight to people from start to finish. But what I would have done is I would have sat behind Morgan McCall, let him tow me along for a while, hopefully up to the back of Christian Deploy, and, you know, literally just watch the battle for a while and, you know, see what happens. Because I've said it before, Bathurst tends to be the great leveler. Anything can happen. So this being still an hour left in the race, you do have some time, you know, on your hands to just sit back a little bit. But I'm going to say again, that's not how we know Daniel Rowe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and especially with the pro drivers, you know, we're going to have to keep an eye out of what's happening, what the strategies are going to be. And I know a couple of guys in the comments might actually give us a bit of an understanding of what these drivers are going through with it getting a little bit darker, when they're having to pit, when they're not looking at pitting, where are they trying to use as much drive as possible. Yeah, things like that the guys have to just be cognizant of. Take a look though, Christian Deploy right onto the back of Cody Sherritt, 0.4 of a second onto the back of him. So yeah, it's turning into a monstrous fight.
Yeah, the other close battle is, you know, Pago Grobler. He's roughly about 0.7 of a second behind Jason McGregor. So, and they're about 7 seconds behind Daniel Rose. So, little battle starting to develop, but I can still say this is essentially a four-way battle for the lead out in front. Although there is a little bit of a gap of 1.8 seconds between Morgan McCall and Daniel, between Christian Deploy and Morgan McCall at this stage.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough time, and now getting involved with back markers. I saw Grant Sebastian coming into shot, and this is going to mix things up a little bit. We saw back markers come into play and change it up for the championship, getting boxed in. Now they're having to deal with it once again. Grant Sebastian is keeping an eye on his mirrors while he chases after Eric, who's staying ahead of him. And it does look like Deploy is trying his luck to get a little bit more of a jump. He doesn't want to get boxed in on the situation. Morgan McCall fighting out with Daniel Rowe as they claw their way around the circuit. This has just changed up the game. It is getting darker out there. Those lights are starting to come on. And for this man over here, if we jump into Cody Sherritt's car at the moment and look from his helmet cam, doing a little bit of adjustments on the steering, probably to ABS or traction control, just to try and help him out, maybe moving the brake bias. But you can see how little bit of work. Actually, it does look like he's flashing his lights ever so slightly, warning the guys, I'm coming through, best be ready, because life's about to get very interesting for everyone. But those headlights beaming through from the back of from Christian Deploy's car, oh, he's in the hot seat at the moment.
Yeah, Christian actually, if you don't know if you saw that on the center screen, Christian actually having a little look on the inside, just letting Cody know, you know, I am there, I am looking at getting past, but decided not to go for the move, and he will have to sit behind him and try and get as close as possible to him throughout the mountain section.
Now that's to keep an eye out. But you can see Grant Sebastian having to deal and take a look behind him. He has got the leaders closing up on him. Christopher Radloff is ahead of him with Eric Kirstein also trying to do his plan. So, I mean, this is turning into a monstrous fight. The guys each fighting their way through, but through the forest elbow, this is not where Cody Sherritt wanted to run into Grant Sebastian. And now having both ATK cars behind him, he has to try and get past as quick as possible. Grant Sebastian can either slightly lift off the throttle, which I think at this point is going to be more beneficial as they come rocketing by, heading towards the kink. Christian Deploy has got the tow. He's bringing his mates along, Morgan McCall and Daniel Rowe, just seeing it. Morgan actually getting caught out and lands up getting stuck behind Grant Sebastian. That has allowed Daniel Rowe to start closing up on him. It is gone absolutely crazy at this point, and as they start feeding through the field, well, life's about to get interesting for all the drivers, because you're no longer just worrying about the car ahead of you, you're worrying about what's behind you and where is going to be the perfect place to overtake, because now nowhere is safe around the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And not just that, Stephen. Looking at that sim time, 23 minutes past 8. You know, last night we saw it become dark very quickly. Literally within the next 10 to 15 minutes, it's going to be totally dark on the track.
Cody Sherritt actually trying to snap Christian Deploy out of the tow. We saw a little bit of a shuffle as he knows what's happening behind him. He could see it in his mirrors, so just moving ever so slightly just to try and snap that tow. But it wasn't enough to get too much pace out of it. But now having both these Mercedes crowning in on him, the planning starts to come in. There's going to be lots of discussions of what are the guys going to do as they are going to be really clawing their way around the field. Bernard Barkhuizen, we've got to talk about. He is now in 12th. Remember, he started in 9th. Started in 10th, landed up with a drive-through, finished his drive-through, back up into 12th position, and is on a bit of a hot charge at the moment, having to deal with Tristan de Norbrugge behind him. He has, well, Bernard's done about 2 drive-throughs, actually, looking at my standings here, which would hurt a bit, and he's also done a pit stop as well. So definitely not having the grandest of times here at Bathurst, but really putting in some good effort. Much like the cars ahead of him, also in a bit of a good run of guys just following through, but Tristan de Norbrugge doing everything he can. You can see the marbles building up on the side, and a little bit of contact with the wall, but it is developing on the fly at the moment. Now, I don't know whether it's good to be in a tow like this where you're so close to one another. In the case of like our leaders, Cody Sherritt and Christian Deploy, looks like Eric Kirstein actually moving out the way and going and lifting off the gas at this point, just get everyone past and continue on with the race. He knows that Christopher Radloff is trying to close down on him, but he's got enough spacing to do it. But is running so close in a group like this beneficial heading into the night, knowing that your tires are starting to fall off, the light's starting to disappear, and you're going to have to start planning your pit stops a little bit sooner than planned?
Well, if I was Christian Deploy and Morgan McCall, I would start thinking of undercutting Cody Sherritt, especially if they feel they can go quicker and they feel they're struggling to get past. You know, we all know as soon as you start battling with another vehicle, you tend to lose pace and you tend to run on a slower pace. So if I was them, I would start looking at maybe pitting and trying to do that undercut. We see Daniel Rowe has fallen, back a bit. He's fallen back about 2 seconds, so I don't know. Oh, Christian Deploy missing the chicane. Well done for keeping that Merc under control, but that's going to be a track limit for him.
Yeah, that's not going to be a friendly one, and I think his teammates actually had to back out. Morgan having to slow up a little bit there, and that puts a little bit of pain on Morgan, and they'll obviously be talking about it. Come on, we can't have moments like this where they battle their way through. Another very close battle is these two, Bernard Barkhuizen and Tristan de Norbrugge, when Tim the cameraman catches up. There we go. Thank you, Tim. Glad to know that you're still on duty. But take a look at the likes of Tristan trying to go around the outside once again. Not able to do it, but every single time seems to have the straight line, but just not the cornering compared to the mighty Aston of Bernard Barkhuizen with the newer 2020 BMW M4 GT3 car that has really been putting on an awesome show all season, and turned it into a bit of a BMW M Fest. I have to just put out there.
Yeah, when the BMW first came out, it was very popular, and every second person used to drive it. But a couple of seasons later, it has died down a bit, and to now actually down to only 4 BMWs in the field, where there used to be like 10 to 15 at any given stage in any given league.
I'll take a look through who's where and what's happening. Let's go through. Cody Sherritt currently in first place, holding back the pressure of Christian Deploy, followed by Morgan McCall in third place, Daniel Rowe in fourth place, Jason McGregor down in fifth place. Sixth place is Bego Krobler, Andre Soradio for Project Vapor in seventh place, Ruan van der Vestes in eighth. Ninth place is Dean Kabasa, Tini Nkube in 10th. 11th is Peter Oosthuizen, Bernard Barkhuizen in 12th. 13th place, Tristan de Norbrugge, who gets it all kinds of sideways. Ethan Lacuna rounding out in 14th. Eric Kirstein in 15th. Christopher Radloff in 16th place. Connor Alexander in 17th. 18th is Grant Sebastian. And it does look like we've got 2 retirements, and one of them being Sujin Pillay, who I think has thrown in the towel at this point. And, well, this is one of the circuits that if you throw the towel in, mate, I fully respect that.
I mean, I think both me and you have had our fair run-ins with the walls around Bathurst, and those walls can literally kill your race. It can literally kill the car.
That is no question, and you can't spin the car around to get it. But I just want to check out here, Christian Deploy, Morgan McCall, 2 teammates, 0.3 of a second on one another. Are we going to see, Christian Deploy actually just mining out the way for Morgan McCall there, allowing him to go by, so opting that Morgan's a little bit quicker. I was about to say, are we going to see a teammate battle here? Or would they say, is there any team orders? But Christian Deploy actually mining out for Morgan McCall and says, you lead the way, buddy. We'll follow you.
We saw Christian, actually flashing Morgan there, but I think that's more to say, as you said, go buddy. I mean, maybe they felt to just switch around a bit to see if Morgan can make the impact on Cody. Christian has tried, and he couldn't get past Cody. Maybe now it's Morgan's turn to lead the way a bit and to see what fight he can take to Cody Sherritt.
Well, as you can see, it's getting a bit darker out there. The reflection of the circuit is getting more and more. That tells you just enough. Daniel Rowe hanging on to the coattails at this point, and he's been running a good pace of 201.7 on his last lap, 201.6. So he's been holding a good pace, enough to hang on to the coattails and just waiting for a mistake to happen. And watching the guys just ahead of him, it's the same as like Jason McGregor and Bego Krobler. They are 2 rival mini teams inside of one big team of Hybrid Academy, but they're just giving enough room that if a mistake had to happen, there's enough time to hit the brakes, change the color of your seat, and just never mind, take a look at that. I think that was actually who was that went crashing into the wall? One of the Honda NSXs, and I think that might have been Christopher Radloff, who, well, no other way of saying it, Christopher went and French kissed the wall so hard, it's now asking for alimony.
Yeah, he almost ended up in the Bentley showroom there.
Yikes! That's a hard face plant there. That's a face palm, and very easy to do down that. We'll get on board with cars when they make their way down the hill again, and actually show from the camera view you slowing the car down on the downhill. The car's lifting, it's bouncing all over the show. It's actually so easy to do and so easy to lock up your brakes and land up in a very treacherous situation where you've got 2 or 3 tires connected to the tar and you got 1 tire that's off. You've essentially turned it into a front wheel drive with the rear tire skipping off the ground, but that is definitely going to put Christopher Radloff in the pits to go and sort out, and you can be sure that's a lot of damage that's been sustained to the car. While we keep an eye on Morgan McCall going after Cody Sherritt, and this is actually the perfect time to just jump on board through the helmet of Morgan McCall as he fights tooth and nail. And this is where he starts coming down the hill. Let's actually head up to Cody Sherritt. You can see sliding the car around. You can hear how he's just feathering the throttle at this point. Gets back on the gas, keeping it in third gear, second gear, backs it down to first, turns it in, and you can see how much it's actually getting quite bumpy into the forest elbow. And it's so easy to get it wrong if you just miss the flow. Just by one corner can change your entire flow.
Yeah, one of the things is, as we saw through there, Cody was flat out, but I actually tend to lift through that last right-hander before the dip, just to keep the rear of the car in check a little bit, because if your rear end steps out on that right-hander just before the dip, it's game over and you're into the elbow, so to call.
Well, taking a look at the field at the moment, we've got 3 drivers that have done all their pit stops, and that is Christopher Radloff, Connor Alexander and Grant Sebastian. But all 3 of those drivers have had severe damage to their car that they needed to go into the pits. Cody Sherritt has not done his pit stops yet. Morgan McCall hasn't done his pit stops yet. Christian Deploy, right down to about Peter Oosthuizen, who's in 11th place, hasn't done any of his pit stops. Now, 49 minutes into the race, getting darker. We've seen guys start pulling in around about this time. Do you think we're going to see the 45-minute mark, that halfway mark, being the magic number for everyone?
If they're going to do tires, and at this stage we don't know yet, I would like to split it down the middle, so say around the 40-minute mark. But at this stage, Stephen, you know, it's anybody's guess, and I would have loved to see the fuel loads on these guys and the cars. You know, it's unfortunate we can't because you know, it doesn't allow us to, but you know, I would love to see what fuel levels these guys are running, because that will give you a kind of an indication on what type of strategy they are on.
Now that's definitely it. And taking a look at a couple of the drivers, Tini and Kube keeping up with Dean Kabasa, both of them having a bit of fun out there, and been chatting quite a lot in their streams about how they've been enjoying the Grid Championship series, and also hyping up getting into round number 7. So both Dean Kabasa and Ikube really been looking forward to it. Been running pretty well, and currently both in the top 10, having a bit of fun. But let's take a look at our position gates. Cody Sherritt started in first, currently in first. Morgan McCall is up 1 position. Christian Deploy down 1 position. Daniel Rowe he's in the same place as he started, in 4th place. Jason McGregor up 2 positions. Andre Serradio making up 7 positions and is on a hot charge at the moment as he is doing everything he can. You've got Ruan van der Westhuizen up 9 positions from when he started. Tini and Kube and Dean Kabasa up 11 positions from when they started. So if you want to talk about movers and shakers, 9th and 10th are up 11 positions on their original start. And well, I mean, that is huge.
I mean, absolutely, and I think a lot has got to do with just keeping their noses clear of any damage. Morgan McCall dropping a little bit back there. I think we just missed it. He went side by side with Cody Sherritt through turn 2, and unfortunately couldn't make the move stick, resulting in him dropping back a little bit. But this battle in the front, Stephen, it's certainly starting to heat up a bit, as we see Daniel Rowe now starting to come back a little bit again, and he's starting to get closer, only a second behind Christian Deploy. So maybe he did take a little bit of a breather and, you know, let the tires have a bit of a break before he decided to start, you know, battling back at them. He's really closed up on the back of Christian Deploy very quickly through this mountain section.
Well, take a look. Christian Deploy was actually battling his way down the mountain. I think he got held up in a bit of a concertina effect with Morgan McCall trying to get himself back in order. And this has allowed Daniel Rowe to get back into the podium fight to try go for those positions. and he let everyone wear their tyres out. Morgan McCall and Christian Deploy, remember, those two have been constantly fighting, which means the use on their tyres is tremendous. Take a look at Daniel Rowe just sending it up on the inside, no problem whatsoever. And Christian Deploy just couldn't fight back on it. He's trying to go on the outside, as it does look like Daniel Rowe comes back on him as they entered into the final corner. Now heading down to Hell's Corner, as it's called, the Hell Corner. And for anyone that doesn't know Turn 1 a Hell Corner, there used to be a tree smack bang in the middle of it, and all bikers used to crash into it and landing up, well, singing hospital, singing the coffin dance, visiting the flowers, pushing up daisies, you know, the usual stuff. And we've also got Bernard Barkhuizen in a bit of a run. But take a look side by side into Turn 1. Is this going to be enough? Is it going to be enough room? Christian Deploy having to do what he can to keep it all together, to keep Daniel Rowe at bay, but drops out a little bit further behind. Ruan van der Westhuizen, oh, just saw that he landed up with a problem, and as he came into shot, it looked like he's eaten the wall a little bit. Let's go back and you can just see the collection there. So I think it was slightly above that he landed up with the problem, and he lost out 2 positions on that one impact, and that's pretty much hurt his race. How much damage to the Porsche? That's something that's going to be going through his mind, but he is sitting about 10.7 seconds behind Tristan de Norbrigge, who was he originally ahead of. He's not, that steering's not straight on him. I think he's battling a bit out there.
Yeah, both headlights are still on and they're not blinking under braking, so as we know, the Porsche can start blinking, you know, Stephen, when it picks up that front end damage. We know all too well.
That's it. Unfortunately, a lot of the damaged models go and land up with blinking, and if you stand on the brakes, the headlights disappear, carving their way through the likes of Dean Kabasa and Tini Nkube as they make their way through. And Christian Deploy still keeping a lot of pressure on the back of Daniel Rowe. And sorry, that's Dean Kabasa that's actually just ahead of them. So Dean Kabasa really focusing on his charge, not trying to get too much in the way of this battle. Moves out to the right, allows him to go through without a hitch. But this is going to allow the toe down the back straight. And unfortunately, Christian Deploy could not take that inside line as much as he would like to get past Daniel Rowe. He had to just bite it out at this point. And now coming in for one of, I've got to say, the most iconic camera shots is down the straight, other than, and it's all this dip with the nice headlights coming into play. And you can see the guys just having to fight their way through darker and darker conditions. No pit stops for our top 9 drivers at the moment, and that is starting to turn into a bit of a worry. 42 minutes left. You've got to get 2 mandatory pit stops in. At the moment, we've got Bernard Barkhuizen, who has got 1 pit stop left to go, and then he would have completed all his pit stops. He has suffered that drive-through penalty, but he is in 10th place. So he's back up to where he started with a drive-through and done his pits. I don't know how this is all going to work out, and I feel that if you pit too late on this circuit, you land up in a world of hurt that you can't get out of, because there isn't enough time to make up that time, because you spend so long in a train.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, 42 minutes in, you know, I think it's safe to say that at least the top 9 did fuel the cars to the brim as they sat on the grid. I mean, I don't know about your fuel usage, but my fuel usage on these GT3 cars is about an hour and 5 minutes max. So it seems to say they are quite heavily fueled. Well, not anymore. They would have burned through a lot of that fuel at this stage, but you know, opening up their options a bit. And maybe it's a case of the top 4 deciding to stick it out, not wanting to pit, and give the other guys an opportunity for an overcut or so forth. I would have, maybe if I was Christian Deploy, seriously start thinking about an undercut on Daniel Rowe.
Well, also the likes of Morgan McCall, who's in a good tow, trying his best. Dean Kabasa coming by, Tristan de Norbrigge heading into the pits, so he's getting his pit stop done. Dean Kabasa making up a position. So Let's see, a little bit of bumps and bruises on the Spirit Invest RDSA BMW of Tristan de Norbrigge. Let's see if he will be able to get out ahead of this man over here. Ruin van der Westhuizen, he's making his way past the pits now. Ruin has completed all his mandatory pit stops. And let's see if it would be enough to get the jump over Tristan. Tristan's trying to get going, trying to exit as quick as he can. It's going to be close though. Yeah, but it does look like Van der Westhuizen's just able to get the drive. Tristan going a little bit out of the pit exit, and now is in a hot chase as they go side by side heading into turn 2, and it's all about who's got a bit more straight line speed. At the moment though, it does look like Van der Westhuizen has got the run. Tristan de Norbrigge around the outside makes it stick though. How well is it going to work on the apex? Just fine as he blasts on through. Tristan de Norbrigge was stopped for 27.9 seconds, so his total pit stop time was 54.3. Do you think he'd put new fresh pair of tackies on there, new set of slicks to go and battle it out for the next 39 minutes?
Yes, I do think he did, with that pit stop time. And, we also saw a little bit of damage on the BMW, so I think that damage could have hurt his tires as well. So maybe taking the safe route and just slapping on some new ones and trying to get back some pace with a new set of tires.
And also taking a look, Grant Sebastian actually unfortunately pitting. It looks like he's going to be out for the race. So is Christopher Radloff going to be out for the race, looking at their pit stop times at the moment. Let's go through the grid, shall we? Cody Sherritt in first place, still holding back Morgan McCall. Daniel Rowe having a problem with Christian Deploy all over the back of him. Jason McGregor going and making his way around as Tim the cameraman tries to get him into shot. There we go. Jason McGregor coming into the pits. Bago Krobler in 6th place. 7th place is Andre Serradio. Tini and Kube in 8th place. So actually take a look. Andre Serradio dropping down in 7th. 9th place, Peter Westhuizen, Bernard Barkhuizen in 10th, Dean Kabasa in 11th, Tristan de Norbrigge in 12th, Ruan van der Westhuizen in 13th, Christian Radloff in 14th. Those are our drivers still out on the circuit, pushing as hard as they can to keep the momentum up. But at the back, 12th and 13th, got to give them a little bit of love. Ruan van der Westhuizen, Tristan de Norbrigge slugging it out like there's no tomorrow, and some good side-by-side action. Running a little bit wide, trying to force Van der Westhuizen to lose a bit of momentum. Tristan trying to do everything he can to kill the drive off that Porsche, knowing how of a formidable foe it is. Goes to the middle of the circuit, comes across the nose, so just slowing up the Porsche just enough to try and keep that momentum. Does put him on the wrong line going into turn 2 as he makes his way up the hill. But if we have to take a look at the view at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, to show you how dark it is, let's go to the helmet. This is all that they can see as they make their way around the hill, around here at Bathurst for round number 7 of the Grid Championship Series. I mean, there is nothing. There is absolutely nothing. And then if you're stuck in a battle like this with Christian Deploy coming past Daniel Rowe, where you've got to try and guess where your brake markers are, hard onto the brakes, and just make sure you don't land up with an issue. This is some very treacherous conditions. We saw rain come into effect many times in GT3 racing. Now having the likes of the darkness swooping in, it's a definite whole another ball game that the guys are playing with.
I think a little bit of rain can spice it up a bit with the darkness. What do you say? No, just interesting.
Just go and do a rain dance, turn the sprinklers on, make life a little bit too interesting for these drivers. I think at the moment they're just trying to keep it all together. 17 cars still on a circuit. A couple of retirements have been had. Unfortunately, guys sustaining major damage to their vehicles. A couple of drivers unable to make it to the grid tonight due to various reasons. But still a good field out, and I've got to say, with a little bit of a thinned out field, it's not great to see in the sport, but for these guys that are racing really hard, maybe having that extra bit of room to move around is a bit more beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know load shedding's playing its part to a certain extent, but especially around a track like Bathurst, where lapping cars, if you can call it that, tends to be a lot more difficult if you catch them through the mountain section. It does help you when the field is a bit smaller and it frees up that room to to go racing, so to speak. But yeah, on the other side, Steve, unfortunate that the field is a bit smaller than normal tonight, and that a couple of cars have sustained some damage and unfortunately had to retire from the race. But it doesn't make the racing any less exciting the way these guys are going at it.
Well, that's it. And taking a look at who's where, as we see the likes of Cody Sherritt and Morgan McCall going side by side through the kink. That is extremely brave by both drivers, and to make it stick is some good hard work. Morgan trying to go on the outside, doing everything he can. Cody Sherritt trying to defend that inside line, holding it tight towards the middle of the circuit to go ensure the likes of Morgan cannot get by. But, I mean, this is turning into some hard racing between them. And once again, Morgan tried going for that inside line, backing out of it into turn 1. Doesn't want to overshoot the corner, but now has the toe. Heading into turn 2, will this be his opportunity to straight line it past the McLaren of Cody Sherritt, utilize the power of the Mercedes, or has the McLaren just got enough setup on it to stop the likes of Morgan McCall? And it does look like just going and snapping that toe is breaking that movement. But you can be sure both drivers are sweating like there's no tomorrow, because this is a fight, ladies and gentlemen. And to do this in the dark goes and shows the skill level of all our pro drivers, even our drivers into our Pro-Am, our Am, our gold and silver. Guys are all racing in the same conditions, these dark, challenging conditions, and showing what they can do and showing the skill level of sim racers at the moment is really incredible to see. And I've got to take my hat off, because this scares the daylights out of me.
I mean, absolutely, especially on a track like this. I mean, when it gets dark, you know, a lot of your brake markers tend to disappear. So racing in the dark sometimes is almost racing on muscle memory, because you know you need to do your practice in order to first of all get to know the track during the day, so that you can do that transition to night. Because I've mentioned, you know, some of your brake markers disappear. You need to know where to brake, especially through a corner like this, because through a corner like this, the meter boards aren't necessarily the brake markers.
What meter boards? I think they gone missing a long time ago in the darkness. And it's really turning into it. But take a look though, the guys still haven't pitted, but down in 7th place, Jason McGregor has got 1 pit stop to go. So at the moment, Jason McGregor might have the opportunity here, because there's only 33 minutes left of the race. Everyone has to do a pit stop. If we look at the average times of the pit stop, they're spending about 40 to 50 minutes in the pits. So to do a top up and get back out there, you're looking at 50 seconds. Okay, 33 minutes to go. You put that together, there is a lot of time to be lost, and it may fall into the lines of Jason McGregor, Andre Serradio, Bernard Barkhuizen having a better strategy to keep that 1 extra pit stop to go in a little bit deeper. Tristan de Norbregger has got no pit stops at the moment. He's first to the no pit stops, but is quite far behind the leaders. He's 37 seconds away from Dean Kabasa, who's ahead of him. Strategies are going to have to come into play here. When are you going to pit? When is going to be the right time to do it?
And that's a numbers game, Stephen. And in the longer version of the races, you know, we very well know that some battles aren't won on track, but actually won in the pits due to strategies.
Oh, there we go. We got Oosthuizen coming into the pits. Tini Nkube is into the pits. Jason McGregor now up into 6th place. Andre Serradio up into 7th place. So guys are starting to shuffle, realizing time's running out. And the guys at the back are starting to see it, but I think the guys at the front are in too much of the race at this moment to realize that sometime they're going to have to box. They're going to have to box, and they're going to have to try and figure it out. And if in the case of Cody Sherritt, who's leading the grid, he hasn't got enough space to get in and out of the pits to stick away from Morgan McCall in 2nd place, or Christian de Pooy in 3rd place, or Daniel Rowe in 4th place, but it does look like Daniel Rowe has got a bit of a scuffed front end, so he might have just tagged the wall slightly. Not 100% sure. Very easy to do in these conditions. But at the moment, if I have to put it, Daniel Rowe may be in the pound seat to watch when the guys pit and mimic the pit maneuver.
Yeah, once or twice I did see Daniel in the mountain section clip the wall, especially through the fast right-hander, which they're about to go through now. Well, shortly anyway. So I do think he's got a little bit of damage, and what that might do is Steve also hurt those front tires of him a little bit more than what it might hurt the other cars. We have seen Christian Deploy open up a little bit of a gap to Daniel Rowe since he got past him, and at this stage, you know, he is ever so slowly pulling away from Daniel Rowe. I mean, the gap now up to 2.5 seconds. A lap or so ago it was 2 seconds, so I don't know what position Daniel is in at this stage, and maybe starting to think about replacing tires, not a bad idea. But the battle for first and second between Morgan McCall and Cody Sherritt, by far the closest on track. You know, the other gaps have opened up, some of them quite significantly actually.
Now you're looking at about 3 seconds being the closest, other than this fight right here, which is 0.1 of a second going drag racing style. As they make their way down the Conrad straight through the kink. A little bit of a bump and toss as they go late on the brakes. Who's going to be a little bit later? Morgan trying to just feed those brakes on, but it looks like Cody Sherritt able to get the jump on him. Now sticking to that inside. Does it look like Cody's going to go for it? No, he's actually looks like he's trying to bait Morgan McCall to go into the pits to hopefully try get him off. But as you said, by far, this is the closest battle on circuit. Christian Deploy is 2 seconds away. 2.3 seconds away from him is Daniel Rowe. 19.7 seconds away in 5th place is Bego Krobler. 55.9 seconds, Jason McGregor. Andre Serradio, 12.2 seconds. 5.6 seconds is Bernard Barkhazen. Tinian Kuba in 9th place, 37 seconds away from 8th. 10th place is 10.2 seconds. That's Dean Kabasa. I mean, the gaps have opened up tremendously, except for this front pack here, who have been constantly on the charge, and makes me wonder how much life is left in those tires. When are they going to pit? Because 2 pit stops need to be done. 2 mandatory pit stops. Otherwise, you suffer a major penalty that can cripple. And at this point, they are racing for the championship, because Morgan and Cody are in the fight for it. Christian Deploy trying to give a bit of backup. Daniel Rowe is also doing what he can to get involved in it. But we're watching the battle for first and second in the championship. Literally first and second on the circuit here at Bathurst for round number 7. The second last race of the season at the moment.
Yeah, the championship's starting to draw to a close, and you know, it's now starting to become championship deciding races, if you can call it that, because a small little mistake from one of these guys here can actually now decide the championship, especially with the front runners like Morgan McCall, who is at this stage actually leading the championship out. So Steve, these are starting to get, you know, important races. I mean, at this stage, the 2 championship leaders.
There we go. Morgan McCall diving into the pits. Morgan McCall into the pits. That's freeing up Cody Sherritt to keep going. Christian Deploy staying out. He's going to go and try and give chase. What is Daniel Rowe going to do? Daniel Rowe now following suit. So Daniel Rowe coming into the pits, and that has allowed Christian Deploy and Christian Deploy and the likes of well, it's Cody Sherritt and Christian Deploy. Go do your own battle. Go charge their way through. But it means these 2 have now started their final pit stop. Bego Krobler is nowhere near to them, so they're going to get ahead of 5th place. So the race is in the pits at the moment between Morgan McCall and Daniel Rowe, while Cody Sherritt pulls away from Christian Deploy, who's 2.5 seconds behind him at the moment. So there is free air chasing him down. And well, we were wondering, we were assuming, we were trying to figure out, and now it's all come out to this. But it does look like Morgan McCall getting out on circuit. Daniel Rowe also just getting out on circuit now. And taking a look at their times stopped in the box. Morgan McCall 14 seconds, Daniel Rowe 19 seconds, so not enough for a tyre change, I think. I think that is just bop in whatever fuel there is, give me the 93 and let's get going. 100 Rand 93 at the pump and keep up the charge. But that has now changed up the fight and changed up the plan for this man over here, who's currently in first place, who has got Christian Deploy, the teammate of someone who is going for his championship, is now able to radio in when Cody Sherritt gets into the pits.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing I wanted to say. The battle for first and second in this race, essentially between Cody Sherritt and Morgan McCall. That's the battle for first and second in the championship, in both on 238 points, with Morgan leading at this stage.
Cody Sherritt not going into the pits. He's going to keep it going. Christian Deploy decides he's going to keep going. Morgan McCall has got Daniel Rowe trying to chase him down, but it does look like Morgan has got a bit of a gap to him. 8.4 seconds. And that's just by utilizing the pit stop and just pitting in the right place, putting in a certain amount of fuel. He's got some space.
Yeah, Morgan opening up a little bit of a gap. So Daniel Rowe did possibly have a longer pit stop, maybe putting a little bit more fuel in that car. But what that will also do is on his second pit stop, it will automatically result in a shorter pit stop and Morgan McCall pitting again.
So Morgan coming into the pits. Here comes Daniel Rowe coming past pit entrance. It looks like Daniel Rowe is going to be able to take that third. He's going to get into the third place. Getting a little bit more of a jump for the Hybrid Academy Invictus team. Morgan McCall, though, now doing his mandatory pit stop. Who else is close to him? Bago Krobler, who's trying to make his way through. Remember, Bago's a little bit further down. Now starting to become a little bit more of a threat to the likes of Morgan McCall, who has pitted.
Remember now, Morgan is done with his pit stops, where Cody still needs to do both his pit stops.
Yeah,
so this is now a race to the end for Morgan.
That's it. And as we can see, the shot of Bago Krobler coming around, and it looks like Morgan McCall just getting ahead of him. But now 1.8 seconds. Morgan trying to build some heat up into those tires as he makes his way through. Bago Krobler now seeing the attack and sees that he can go for that fourth place. But Morgan McCall at the moment is possibly in net first, ahead of Daniel Rowe, who's got one stop left, Christian Deploy, who's got 2 stops left, and Cody Sherritt, who's got 2 stops left.
Question: do you think this is a scenario where the double pit stop of Morgan McCall can give Cody Sherritt a bit of false hopes, so to speak? Because Cody will do his first pit stop and he will get out in front of Morgan.
Though, it's going to be close.
Yeah, but remember, Morgan has done 2 pit stops, so Cody will get out in front of Morgan, giving, you know, a sense of false security. That might be a strategy from Morgan.
It is a high possibility at this point, and we can't rule it out of what the strategy is going into play. Remember, these guys are the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme. They are this is where you want to be. This is the pinnacle of drivers, the fastest drivers in South Africa, slugging it out, and they have got comms with their team. They've got a team member sitting on the outside going, all right, this is what a strategy plan can be, trying to work out what's going to be more beneficial to help them claw their way to the top. And watching the broadcast, watching what the other drivers do, watching what their drivers are currently doing on the circuit.
And, you know, with Christian Deploy sitting behind Cody Sherritt, Morgan McCall has got first class information on where Cody Sherritt is on track, because his teammate is sitting right behind him.
I wouldn't worry too much. Morgan McCall, though, has to deal with Bago Krobler, who is 1.8 seconds behind him. Bago's not letting him run out just too quickly at the moment, so I think we may see Bago go on a bit of an attack. Might be a bit of a lunging time to do it, but I think it's going to be enough to rustle some feathers. Because remember, he's also in a championship fight here. He's trying to maximize points. He's not going to roll over and let the guys go. I mean, come now. Whether you're last in the championship or first in the championship, you're going to stick it out through the fight, maximize those points, and hope that you get the best income out of it. And take a look, Christian Deploy diving into the pits. No, Cody Sherritt getting by. Christian Deploy diving into the pits.
It's dark, okay?
Just look for the unicorn. The easiest way is the Merc has got the unicorn horn lying on the top of it. That's the easiest way to remember it. But that is going to allow Cody Sherritt to get by. And Daniel Rowe, who is trying to make his way through. Tim the cameraman is also having a tough time trying to find. Daniel Rowe on Conrad Straight, though. Is it going to be enough to get ahead of Christian Deploy, who's boxed still? Rolling slightly back, so that tells me he missed his pit box by a couple of centimeters there, and had to just back it a little bit to just get it into the box. But that has eaten some of his time. Daniel Rowe coming past pit entrance, and is it going to be enough? I think Christian Deploy has actually just gotten ahead of Daniel, and Daniel Rowe actually catching a bit of a fishtail there in the background, and we just saw the little bit of happening. Heading into Hell's Corner, hard on the throttle, pushing hard, goes out wide, and it looks like the tail just snapped out underneath him, getting him to a little bit of a slide and losing a bit of time. But is behind Christian Deploy. So Christian Deploy has done it just right to keep ahead of Daniel Rowe. Morgan McCall 23.4 seconds behind Daniel Rowe. Daniel Rowe 10.4 seconds behind Christian Deploy. First place man Cody Sherritt currently 36.1 seconds ahead of second place as he makes his way down the Conrad Straight. Going through, Bago Krobler is in 5th, Jason McGregor in 6th, Andre Serradio in 7th, he's come into the pits. Bernard Barkhazen also into the pits, he's in 8th place. 9th place is Tini Nkube, Dean Kabasa in 10th, 11th place Peter Oosthuizen, Tristan de Norbrigger, Ruin van der Westhuizen, Christopher Radloff, who is unfortunately seems to have retired, Grant Sebastian also retired, Sujin Pillay retired, Ryan Ottens retired, and Ryan Ottens was actually in for the championship as well. I've just got to throw that out there. Ryan Ottens was currently 3rd in the championship, and now has got one race where he's out completely.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, Stephen, why the likes of Ryan Ottens, Sergeant Pillay, and Grant Sebastian, even Christopher Radloff, they still remaining in the server, because remember, they can still get a position. So Christopher Radloff can keep that 14th position, which will help him a little bit in terms of championship points. You know, that's why these guys are not electing to leave the server, because they want that result.
And I think that's actually the right way of doing it, is just hang on for as long as you can. And who knows, you might pick up a point or two for guys going and dropping off the circuit and landing up with a bit of issues. So, turning into a bit of a rough time as they make their way around with only 17 minutes left. 17 minutes and 47 seconds. What do you think the planning is going through the guy's mind? Because we still got quite a few out there that still need to pit. Cody Sherritt needs to pit twice. Christian Deploy needs to pit once. Daniel Rowe needs to pit once. Bago Krobler is once. Jason McGregor is once. Tini Nkube, Dean Kabasa, and Oosthuizen still, they need to pit once. I mean, the fight's still there. When do you pit? When do you get this out the way? Or when can you get it out the way?
Cody will have to come in sometime soon. I mean, he's been out there for more than an hour now. You know, there can't be a lot of fuel left in that McLaren. So he will have to pit sometime, and it's going to be similar to Morgan McCall. Two pit stops, as I say that, he jumps into the pits. But similar to Morgan McCall, it's going to be 2 pit stops, you know, quite close to each other with only little under 17 minutes left on the clock. But the question I want to ask, Stephen, looking at those deltas between the cars, did Morgan McCall take new tires? We saw him coming out of the pits weaving to get temperature in those tires. Did he maybe go for new tires, low fuel strategy to be on a bit of a quali run?
I think that is a high possibility, and taking a look on the trap back, the triangle number 38, that is Cody Sherritt. Thank you. I love seeing those numbers out there. And Morgan McCall, who is the highlighted dot, you can see has got a fair chunk of way to go before he reaches the likes of our first place man. So I think he's just out of it at the moment to try and catch up to Cody Sherritt. But with a fresh pair of slicks on the car and set at the correct PSI for these trickier conditions, considering it's 15 degrees out there on circuit.
To put it in perspective, last lap Morgan McCall was basically 3 seconds quicker than Cody Sherritt. That was the lap before Cody went into the pits.
And you see, this is where it all comes to play, and he's got his teammate right here, Christian Deploy, who's charging on, and Daniel Rowe, who is still 10.2 seconds, Morgan McCall 22 seconds behind, as Tim and cameraman getting a couple of guys coming out of the pits, and a big shot of Bathurst. Nice to see the beautiful mountainous circuit that makes or breaks drivers and is home to the 24-hour of Bathurst. It's also the 12-hour of Bathurst and the Bathurst 1000 legendary races that have gone on, and the 12 hours of Bathurst being the GT3's main live stay, along with the Bathurst 1000, I think is my personal favourite, using the big Aussie V8s.
That's certainly very interesting to drive. Very different to a GT3 car. Actually need to do some heel and toe action on the downshifts, otherwise it doesn't quite cooperate with you. So imagine driving that for 12 hours.
That can get a little bit tricky, but take a look at this. Christian Deploy all over the back of Cody Sherritt now, hoping to get a little bit more of a drive. Cody Sherritt, remember, has to pit, so does Christian Deploy. Christian Deploy actually going into the pits, and I think it wasn't completely planned, but I think the curb being the deciding factor.
Persuaded him.
Yes, the curb persuaded him to do it. That's allowed Cody Sherritt to pull away. Daniel Rowe also not going into the pits. Remember, he's still got one more pit stop. Morgan McCall, though, making his way down the Conrad Straight, might actually get the jump on his teammate. So as we may see him come through, here comes the pit entrance. Christian Deploy still holding at the moment. Morgan waiting to just get that position, and I think he's done it to get the jump up over his teammate Bago Krobler, also coming into the pits. So that's our 5th place man now getting his pit stop out the way, done and dusted. And he's going to be sorting himself out. Christian Deploy heading out onto the circuit.
Christian made it.
He just made it by the looks of it. Just by the skin of his teeth. Morgan McCall is hunting him down, but remember, Morgan McCall's got a lot more heat into the tyres and brakes versus Christian Deploy, who's recently come out of the pits, and he's got smack bang into a bit of a train of back markers.
Yeah, but at this stage, Morgan is sitting with his teammate in front of him, so yet again, it can be one of those scenarios where they actually work together, team up against the rest of the drivers on the track.
Let's go through who's where. Cody Sherritt currently in first place. Can't see much in the darkness there. Wait till we see the headlights. There he is. Daniel Rowe in second place. Christian Deploy in third. Morgan McCall in fourth. Bago Krobler in fifth. Sixth place is Bernard Barkhuizen. Andre Serradio in seventh place. Tristan de Norbrugge in eighth. Ninth place, Jason McGregor making his way around with Tini and Kube trying to chase him down. Peter Oosthuizen, losing it in the mountain. And, this is a bit of a precarious place to be in. Trying to turn his car around and, reversing it to the wall. But not the place that you want to be. Dean Kabasa actually taking a deep breath and getting past Peter Oosthuizen, past the front of the nose. Ruan van der Westhuizen in the Porsche now starting to try close down the gap onto him. Christopher Radloff in the pits, unfortunately he's out. So 13 cars still circulating around the circuit on these very, very tricky conditions, and so far been some good racing throughout the evening, with all the drivers having to put in some serious legwork, as we see Jason McGregor mining out the way for one of the 80k drivers. He's also got Tini and Kube about 2 seconds behind him in that top 10, so nice to see Nkube in the top 10 with his teammate in the 11th place, Dean Kabasa, hoping to close down the gap as well.
So now, Stephen, only Cody Sherritt and Daniel Rowe still need to do their final pit stop. The rest of the field, they've completed all their pit stop. You know, unfortunately, except for Sergeant Pillay and Ryan Ottens, which unfortunately retired their cars, so they haven't completed their pit stops. But first and second place. And they've got Christian Deploy and Morgan McCall chasing them down, which have completed their pit stops. So this race is still far from over.
It's going to be a close one, and these two teams have been slugging it out through the championship, from round one. And over the course of the races, Cody Sherritt, Daniel Rowe, always trying to get one up on one another. And it's now come to this, where whose strategy is going to work? Who's going to have the rabbit in the hat that's needed to get the jump on it? Who's going to have just enough magic left in the glove to try and get the jump? I mean, this situation right now is not a situation anyone wants to be in. And you've got to try and figure out what's going to be right, because here comes Cody Sherritt diving into the pits. There's only 6 minutes left of that pit window open in this 10 minutes and 13 minutes left of the race. So Cody Sherritt's in the pits. Here comes Daniel Rowe. Daniel Rowe's not going to pit though. He's opted to go one more lap by the looks of it. He's going to go over Cody Sherritt. Now, where is Christian Deploy? Christian Deploy now making his way. There we go. So Christian Deploy approaching last corner. This is going to hurt. Tristan de Norbrigge just ahead of him is giving him a little bit of a tow. And I think this is exactly what Christian wanted to see. Is Cody still in the box? Cody trying to come out the box, getting on the gas.
This is going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be close. But it does look like Christian Deploy just eking out ahead. I think we got a race. I think we got a race between Christian Deploy and Cody Sherritt. Daniel Rowe has to go and really shake a leg now if he wants to hold his position. Tristan de Norbrigge hanging to that outside line, not allowing too much of an easy drive. He's also in his own race as Tristan de Norbrigge is going after Andre Serradio. He's a little bit further up and trying to keep here. Jason McGregor is 2.3 seconds behind. But the race is on for Cody Sherritt, who is stuck now behind Tristan de Norbrigge of that RDSA Spirit Invest BMW. And Cody is chomping at the bullet at this point, seeing the blue flag, saying, please, you need to get out my way. I need to chase down this mighty Mercedes ahead of me and show that McLaren is one of the more powerful cars.
And while this is happening, Morgan McCall is gaining on Cody Sherritt. Now, this is played right into the hands of the ATK team. I mean, they've got Christian Deploy out in front, all net first place at this stage, and Morgan McCall behind Cody Sherritt. So they've sandwiched Cody Sherritt, which is at this stage Morgan McCall's main championship rival.
Well, Morgan McCall having to get past the likes of that looks to be Jason McGregor in the Honda NSX just ahead of him. You saw a little bit of flashing, and McGregor not backing out of it because he's in a race going after this man here, Tristan de Norbrigge, who's just a little bit up the way. So, you don't want to jump out the way for the guys, but you're in your own race, and by moving out the way for the likes of Cody Sherritt, that's allowed Jason McGregor to get on the back of him. Jason McGregor trying to go to the inside of Tristan. He allows Morgan to come by. So now Morgan has got a free shot down the straight. Oh, Jason catching a tank slapper in the background and now having to try and correct it. He's lost our loud drive. That's given Tristan a bit of time to go and swipe the sweat off his brow. But Morgan McCall and Cody Sherritt are in a race to go for third place at the moment. Daniel Rowe, 17.4 seconds. Still has one more stop to go. Tian Kube, though, is now caught on to the back of Jason McGregor after Jason had that mighty tank slapper, putting the top 10 battle coming into play with Tian Kube getting in, has an opportunity to get into 9th, which will help his championship points in the grid championship. So, I mean, this is now all starting to evolve. And if you look about pit windows, Daniel Rowe has to pit now or one more lap because there's only 2 minutes and 41 seconds left to pit. Otherwise, he's got a problem and is going to suffer a world of hurt. There's 6 minutes and 33 seconds left of this race. It is dark out there, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, we're running by headlights, tail lights, and whatever lights are still connected to the cars. And looks like Jason McGregor actually landing up, catching the wall. That has allowed T and Kube to get by. So McGregor losing out a bit of time. And that's allowed... Jason McGregor losing time. T and Kube getting by. Morgan McCall in the tow with Cody Shearer. Now trying to pull himself along. Is this going to be enough? Cody now going on the defense. It is side by side heading into the king. Cody Shearer trying to do everything he can. Morgan just having a slightly more straight line horsepower. Might help him out here. Can he hang on to it? Daniel Rowe into the pits. Where's Christian Deploy? Coming around our pit entrance. And so is the likes of Morgan and Cody Shearer. Daniel Rowe, I think at this point, is going to be suffering 4th place. And is going to be on an almighty charge out of the pits as quick as possible to really keep up the gas. And he is trying to get out as the drivers make their way through. Where is that Audi going to come out though? Is it going to be enough? I think he's too far behind. I think he has pitted just too late.
Yeah, I was watching that Delta and I kept thinking to myself, 17 seconds to Christian Deploy is not enough for that pit stop. He is going to filter out in front of Bago Krobler, which he ultimately did. So, 5 minutes to go. This is now a race to the line, Stephen. Everybody's done their pit stops. Morgan getting, he's got past Cody, and he's. Do you think team orders are going to play a role? Now, I'm just going to throw it out there.
My honesty sake, no. Reason for this. Take a look at the time difference. 4.3 seconds at the moment. Okay?
Cody only a second behind.
Cody is a second and a half behind. To go and tell your Christian Deploy to back off means that you have a possibility of creating a concertina effect, which
and
will allow
first and second.
Yes, which will allow Cody Shearer to get onto the tail, and 5.6 seconds behind is Daniel Rowe. So you can't count Daniel Rowe out just yet. They still got a couple of laps left in the tank. So at the moment, I think it's hang on for dear life. Push as hard as you can. We just got word from Jim saying pit window is now closed. So if you still need a pit, you're in for a bit of trouble here. Thankfully, everyone is pitted. But you want to avoid the concertina effect. You want to try and also keep enough spacing between the cars that there isn't a powerful enough tow to allow anyone to catch up to you. So keeping that 1.5 second gap, if you put it that way, because that's when the tow starts kicking in Assetto Corsa Competizione, is within 1.5 to 1.2 seconds. That's when the tow starts biting.
Well, at this stage, Morgan McCall has quite quickly opened up a gap of 3 seconds over Cody Shearer. And he's still pulling away up to 3.3 seconds now. But the thing that I want to say is, if Morgan McCall can pull away from Cody Shearer sufficiently, it might open up that team order thing. Maybe let Morgan pass without any risk.
I don't know, hey. Team orders, not a big fan of them, never been a big fan of them. Sometimes they've come into play depending on where you are to try and do switcheroos. But when it comes to a podium position like this, I wouldn't like to be the guy on the radio saying, Christian, it's Justin. You got to come off the gas. I wouldn't be like to be the guy. Morgan's still going to make a significant amount of points if he continues in his position. Cody is also going to make a significant. I don't know, hey. For anyone that is a team boss out there, we'd love to see you guys in the comments giving your reactions. Would you allow a team order to come in for first and second to switch, knowing how Cody Shearet's there? Daniel Rowe is still around. Daniel Rowe is catching up to Cody Shearet though.
Yes, because Morgan McCall is now. Yeah, Morgan McCall now almost 5 seconds ahead of Cody Shearet with Daniel Rowe closing. So Cody, I don't think Cody took tires, and he's suffering a bit now. Looking at those lap times, he is lapping in the 2:04s with the likes of Christian Deploy and Morgan McCall. Morgan McCall 2:01.9, Christian Deploy 2:02, now doing a 2:01.8 Christian Deploy. So they are lapping a lot faster than what Cody Sherritt is doing at this stage.
Well, we just heard that Christian Deploy has got 1 lap left, so from Jim saying that he's got 1 lap to go, let's see what it's going to be. Christian Deploy, Morgan McCall in 2nd place, Cody Sherritt in 3rd, Daniel Rowe in 4th, Bego Krobler in 5th place, 6th place is Bernard Barkhuizen, Andre Serradio, Tristan de Norbrigge, Tian Kube, Jason McGregor, Dean Kabasa in 11th place, 12th place is Peter Oosthuizen, 13th is Van der Westhuizen, and those are the cars still running. It does look like a couple of guys starting to lax off the throttle a little bit, and Daniel Rowe saying thank you to Tristan de Norbrigge, saying listen, it's fine dude, we'll just keep you going, we all want to come across the line. 13 cars still going out of a 21 car field, and if we have to take a look at the movers and shakers, if we talk about who made up the most positions, it's going to be this man over here, Tian Kube, making up 12 positions since the start of the race. Started in 21st and has clawed his way up to 9th place.
Yeah, and also having a look at that, Bernard Barkhuizen and Dean Kabasa are making up 9 positions. So they've also had a pretty good race so far.
And yeah, that pretty much tells it. There's still a race here. Dean Kabasa and Peter Oosthuizen 1.8 seconds between each other. Knowing that's coming to the end of the race, it's going to be a rough one. Tian Kube is actually showing he slowed up ever so slightly. I think that was because he's just minding the walls at this point as he cycles his way through. Coming down Conrad Straight though, Christian Deploy getting chased down by Morgan McCall. Doesn't look like he's going to back off for his teammate though, and I think Christian Deploy is going to take another win for the championship and is going to be smiling all the way to the bank on that one. First time at Macedo, now having another run here at Mount Panorama in Bathurst. So Christian Deploy coming across the line in 1st place. Morgan McCall taking 2nd place with a good amount of points. Cody Sherritt, after all the hard fights, coming out in 3rd place. So close to his championship rival. Daniel Rowe in 4th. Bego Krobler going to be rounding out in 5th place if he keeps it all together. Bernard Barkhuizen looks like he's going to be finishing up in 6th place. 7th place is Andre Serradio. Confirmed 8th place is going to be Tristan de Norbrigge. Tian Kube in 9th place. Jason McGregor in 10th. Dean Kabasa now making his way around in 11th place. Just keeping ahead. 1.3 seconds behind Oosthuizen is Peter Oosthuizen. Finishing out in 12th, 13th place. Ruan van der Westhuizen in the Porsche. Gets a tank slapper. And Ruan, a little bit celebratory there, pushing a bit hard. But coming across the line, doing an incredible job. And going to be happy with that one. A couple of retirements, unfortunately, we've had for this evening. But some very good racing. All round, I've got to point out, for Bathurst and round number 7 of the Grid Championship. Knowing that next week is the final round.
Yeah, one more round to go, and that is the championship decider, Stephen. You know, it's going to be a big one.
And, well, for anyone out there, it's just to make it even more fun. And I think we can sort of let the rabbit out the bag here. Keep an eye on social media. You might need to put a smile on for a TV camera or two if you're in the car. So just a little bit of a keep an eye on social media, on Mettlestate, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media. Make sure if you're on the Twitch, hit that follow or subscribe if you feel like you want to be charitable, which is great. Love to see it. Lots of esports on Mettlestate, from first-person shooters, MMOs to racing. And if you're here out on YouTube land under RaceFace.Pro, make sure you hit the subscribe button and that bell notification icon, because it is going to be a run for the championship come the final round next week. Any closing words from you, Yellowman?
Really looking forward to next week. I think it's going to be an awesome close race again, and it's going to be the championship decider.
Have a good evening, everybody. And from the land down under, it's Stephen Koenig and Yellowman Price saying good night.